Welcome to Emerge and Empower Podcast TV, a platform where resilience meets transformation. Here, we amplify voices that have faced trials, trauma, and adversity, stories that inspire hope, healing, and empowerment. Every episode brings raw, unfiltered conversations with individuals who have risen from hardship, embracing faith, strength, and purpose. Join us as we break the silence, uplift one another, and emerge stronger together. New episodes air Wednesdays at 6 p.m. English and Saturdays at 6 p.m. with select Saturdays in Creole for our Haitian audience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome again to Emerge and Empower, another segment with your host, truly, Dr. LinJ. Yes, we are here every day as healing continues on every episode, and the testimonials are just great. And I am truly thankful to have the opportunity to open up such a platform where individuals can come on and share. There is no bias, there is no discrimination, and there is no judgment, because everyone come on here to heal and move forward as they continue on this journey called life. And so on today is like no other. So what I need you to do, because we're going to jump right on in. We're not wasting any time. We're jumping right on into our episode, right? But before we, our guest on today by the name of LizBeth. LizBeth is our guest, and we're bringing her right in here as she'll be sharing her own testimonial to each and every one of you as we are on here. So I'll just read a little short synopsis of LizBeth. All right, she grew up in London. All right, though she is of Indian descent. Her parents tried to be good and supportive parents, but they were depressed and anxious, which was brought down by poverty and racism in London in the 70s and 80s. But they inspired her, all right, to love learning, self-awareness, and personal fulfillment. She studied biology at the University of Oxford and then became a teacher. She has taught middle and high school in England, Japan, Australia, and California. She has 2 children who are now teenagers and homeschooled them for many years. She went through a acrimonious divorce and custody battle for about five years ago and lost her children. She was adamant that she would not allow the experience to break her, and she discovered internal family systems around her at that time. It brought together meditation, self-awareness, huge potential for self-healing. She discovered that deep emotional pain can be a portal to inner transformation. She is now an internal family systems therapy practitioner, which is certified level 3, educator, writer, laughter yoga leader, and conflict mediator. She writes about multiple mind applying IF therapy to life. She teaches people to bring joy, healing, and fulfillment to their lives. Best of all, she has experience helping her clients heal seamlessly intractable trauma, usually from their childhood. Now, talk about childhood trauma, which seems to be a constant thing and reminder among everyone that comes on here today. Let us now welcome everyone. LizBeth to the set. LizBeth, welcome to Emerge and Empower. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And let everyone know where you're connecting from.
So I grew up in London, but right now I live in South Carolina.
Okay. So Callie, all right, is in the house on today, and LizBeth is right here. So LizBeth, we're just going to dive in. I mean, the synopsis was just a brief overview of your story, right? And so on today, you'll be sharing with our audience your own personal experience. You are today now a successful woman, but it was not always that way. So you're going to take us back to as early as you would like to share as we just dive right into your story.
Right. So I think for me, it was my parents really instilling in me this love of learning and self-awareness, and how knowing yourself was so important. And I was very much a loner as a child. So I spent a lot of time just being with myself, going inside. And I just found it really fascinating. And then it was much later when I discovered internal family systems that I got the language for understanding what was going on in me. And then that really helped me to bring together some of those influences like nonviolent communication and meditation. And I think up until then, those tools had been super helpful in noticing what was going on in me, but they weren't necessarily helpful in getting me to change patterns or heal trauma. And then when I was experiencing racism, a lot of that growing up in England, and it really affected me. It made me constantly searching for home where I could feel like I fit in and I could be myself. And I don't know if I've ever found that outside myself, because I don't think we do. I think we find it within.
Right.
But then when I went through this really difficult custody case a few years ago, it nearly broke me. And I was just adamant that I wasn't going to let it. And then I discovered internal family systems. And it gave me this way to not just notice what was going on inside, but access parts of me who were still carrying trauma, still playing that out in my everyday life and living under a cloud. So there's the reality of how hard life can be. And I certainly don't want to diminish that. But then it's our response to it. And by healing the baggage, the things that we bring that we're projecting into the present, we can handle the things that life throws at us with more resilience. And when life is full of joy inside, then we're more able to live that out externally too.
Right. So this is the LizBeth today. So just take us back into your childhood.
Okay. Well, I would say that I was a bit of a loner, and I didn't fit in. And I internalized a lot of things that were going on in the world. So when I was rejected, when there was racism that I experienced, I didn't know how to make sense of it. So I made it about me, and that affected my self-esteem. It affected my self-worth. And that's really painful. And what I learned was that I could change. I could go to different places. And that was part of my learning, to travel to new places and see if I could bring out different aspects of myself with that beginner's mind. Really try to put myself in situations that challenge the norms so that I could discover who I was. So I think I first felt that sense of freedom when I was 24 and I was living in Japan, and it was such a different place. Like everything seemed turned on its head in respect to culture, human interactions. Everything was just so foreign and different. But it gave me the opportunity to experiment, to just find my authenticity and to discover who I was. And, that was really fun. It was fun to, be unique and different.
Right.
So that was really formative in my self-discovery. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Now, a lot of people might hear you use the word racism and not understand it, especially in a place like London. Some might say, well, the world goes there, just like the world goes to United States. The world goes everywhere. But at the same time, you still have individuals that are still dealing, culturally, when it comes to certain environments. So now here it is, you went to Japan, which is a whole new, it's like maybe like a culture shock, right? And now you finally feel like, maybe I can, find my own identity here. I can be, who I am. So at this time, you're 24 years old. All right. And in this 24 years old, you went there for college, or did your family move there? What took you to London?
So I was a teacher. I'd been teaching in England, and I got the opportunity to go and teach English at a high school in Japan. So I went there with a job. Yeah. So it was a wonderful experience. And then in terms of the racism, like London may well be a cosmopolitan center now. Life where people live in London is quite different. But we're talking about the 1970s and 1980s here. So England had experienced a surge in nationalism, and there was a lot of fear and white pride also. There was a lot of fear of Asians coming over, taking their jobs. Similar patterns to what we see now all over the world.
Right.
You know. So, and I was born in London. So I expected that to be my home, my place. I had very few connections with India, even though my parents were from there. Right. So when I was told to go back to where I came from, when I suffered physical and verbal racial abuse, it made no sense to me. Right. But the only sense that you can make of it when you're really young is that you are wrong, that there's something wrong with you, that you're abhorrent. So when I actually went to Japan, it was a type of freedom because I no longer had to ask that question, who am I? Right. So in England, I was British, but I certainly didn't feel English. Right. You know, I was just British because I was born there. Right. But in Japan, I was a gaijin, which means foreigner in Japanese. Right. I was grouped together with white Americans, Australians, anyone who wasn't Japanese. Right. And it was culturally so much more simple. I knew my place. Right. You know, I wasn't Japanese. My actual ethnicity and color didn't really matter. Right. It was fascinating. You know, people might ask out of interest, but it was almost a non-issue. I was a gaijin. That was it. And then that was the first time, because I finally knew my place and it made sense to me, that gave me a freedom. And then in that way, it was like there were expectations of foreigners in Japan. They were supposed to be kind of wacky and weird and eccentric. So then that gave me the freedom to say, okay, so what do I want to do here, you know? And, you know, I threw myself into Japanese culture and just learned all sorts of really cool things. And, you know, again, it was just like, that was my coming of age. So it was really wonderful. So.
Wow, that's great. And so you stayed there for how long before you moved again?
I was there for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, I went back to England for about 6 months. And then I still wanted to continue living in different places. I was in Australia for about 2.5 years after that, again, teaching. Yeah. So, and that was a fun experience. But I don't know, I discovered spirituality at the time through a movement called Quakerism. So I came to the United States, to Philadelphia, and I studied Quakerism there. And it's not quite a religion. It's a non-religious movement that's all about peace, justice, simplicity, integrity. It's very non-dogmatic. And then I was teaching environmental science at a Quaker semester program for peace, justice, and sustainability in California for a few years after that. So,
okay. Yeah. And so when did you truly come into yourself?
I would say it was in the last few years. And that's because...
the last 2 years recently?
Last few years, yeah.
Few, okay.
Yeah, so since the custody case. And I say that very carefully because although I had gone through many periods of really trying to live authentically and understand who I was, before I went through my custody case, some of my skill set seemed almost theoretical. So I had done a lot of healing. I was training in nonviolent communication. I was helping people resolve conflict through practices of compassion. And yet, after I went through my custody case, it was like I had experienced true suffering and I had been broken and I had to rebuild myself. And then my skill set was no longer just theoretical. I really understood suffering, and that helped me to truly have empathy for people that I was working with. And the other reason I say that I came into myself in the last few years was because before then, I think I just didn't like myself.
Even when you traveled. So did you meet your husband on your travel, or once
So
you
it's now
stepped?
my ex-husband, and
Ex-husband.
and I met him at that place where I was studying Quakerism and spirituality. So
Okay.
even through all of my spiritual seeking, through all of that traveling and all the meditation retreats I did, there was still this sense of self-loathing. And it was only when I discovered IFS in the last few years that then it started to make sense to me, because it wasn't that I hated myself. I learned that we are made up of different parts or sub-personalities. So it simply meant that a part of me hated another part of me, but that wasn't truly who I was. I discovered myself. And if I can relate to my parts, other people, from that place of self-energy, that place is full of compassion and curiosity. There is no loathing or hatred or judgment there. So I could be with the parts of myself who didn't like other parts of myself and embrace them, find out what those parts wanted for me, and really try to understand them better. So I think there's so much freedom in that, to finally love who you are, because you're relating to everyone inside from that place of compassion.
So first, theoretically, you were helping others, and you were also moving in that space yourself. So therefore, it wasn't until, let's say, you were awakened through the pain of this divorce that brought you forward into this true realization.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think everything I had done up till then was very relevant, really important. I mean, it wasn't just like I got my healing done in a few years and that was it. I think it's taken years, and there was a lot of healing on the way. But in terms of like some big transformation that I decided that I wasn't going to let break me, I was going to get the best out of it and really use the experience to be a better person. Yeah, I think it was the last few years.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
That's what, and I like what you said, because even though you were a teacher, you traveled. And in so traveling or searching, it was also to heal the inner you, the spirit man, to find healing in that and to figure out what those areas are, because subconsciously too, or we also disassociate and choose not to, associate with certain things. Didn't mean that they were not a part of you, but at the time, I guess you just didn't want to deal with that part of who you was.
Yeah, and I think we all do that, that there are certain things that we can take facing and dealing with at different times in our lives. I think one of the most important things about traveling for me was that it put me in new situations.
Right.
It gave me even here where I live now, I look around and I've been in South Carolina for about 8 years now, and I still don't take things for granted. Like when I see an armadillo crossing the road, I'm just like, what? Because growing up in London, that would just be unheard of.
Right, right.
So I think that living in new places, it helps me to have this beginner's mind, not take things for granted, not get into a rut, though I still do sometimes.
Right.
And then to just say, okay, how can this situation, bring something new out of me? It is a process of discovery. So
Right.
Yeah.
In truth. So you go through this process, but during the marriage, would you say that everything that he perceived or portrayed, were they there, or you discovered after marriage that there was more to the individual?
I think that we grew apart, and I think that when we got married, we had an idea of who the other person was. I was 30 at the time when I met him, and I just think that children really change people, and I think it got to a point where we were just too different, and the marriage was no longer tenable. And I think sometimes people stay together, but I've realized that in us going our separate ways, I have developed in ways that I wouldn't have within the relationship. And I think that sometimes we compromise ourselves without knowing. I think it's really hard. I think relationships are hard, especially long-term relationships. I don't think that I'm a proponent of marriage anymore, because, you know, I think if it works for people, great. But for me, it just didn't allow me to fully develop, because I don't think it was possible for me. Who I am now at 51 is so different from who I was at 30.
Right. You've grown, you've matured in many areas. You know
Right.
exactly what you want. And obviously, if somebody come into your life right now, they need to want the same things, you know, or
Right.
to continue to leave room for you to grow and still self-discover, instead of put any barriers or limitations on who you are.
Yeah. So I think it's really hard to find a partner who is compatible with that, because part of it is we don't know. We don't know where we're going and who we are and who we're going to become.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. It's true. It's true. So then you go through this divorce, and how long did the process take?
I think the process probably only took about 2 years. And I say only because it felt horrendous at the time.
Right.
And then I hear about people who went through processes that took 5-10 years.
Right.
So yeah. And I just don't know how they do it, because I think it's a terrible experience. I mean, it can be amicable. Ideally, it would be. But, you know, often it can feel like a war, because it's such a clash of values, and it can be really painful for people. So, yeah.
So you mentioned that in this process, you lost your children.
Yes. So I was accused of some things that weren't true. I'd been a full-time homeschooling mother up till then. I was accused of parental alienation. And I ran out of money, and I couldn't really defend myself. So in the end, I had to compromise, and that was painful. Yeah. So.
Wow. So I'm sure as a mother, that is hard. That's the last thing you're going to think, is that you will no longer have your children, you know, with you. So that must have been a very, very difficult time for you as a mother.
Yeah. And it was a loss of identity too, because I really had been a full-time mother, homeschooling, really committed to, you know, just being with my children. I look back on the process, and some days are hard. I mean, I do have my children now. I do have some custody, and we have an amazing relationship. It's really wonderful. But I am able to look at what happened and be grateful for the gifts that the whole process gave me, because I don't know if I would be doing the work that I'm doing now if it wasn't for everything I went through. And the work I do now, it really is incredibly fulfilling. And you read in your intro, I wrote that I do get to help people heal their trauma in ways that has seemed intractable for them. And to just have access to these skills and this process that can really help people is such a gift.
Right. Yeah. Indeed. So I know it was hard for you, but once you had that moment to come back together with your children, they understood what everything was. So there was no blame on your part. So they understood the whole process of everything that was happening. Because I know when things get ugly, things tend to look one-sided.
Right. Well, some things just aren't appropriate for children to hear. And, you know, I think that they had some understanding of what was going on, but, you know, it was fine that they managed to just accept it and be happy that we were reunited.
Coffee was just coffee, a routine sip, part of the 2 billion cups consumed daily, enough to fill an Olympic swimming pool every 3 minutes. Same old flavor, same old routine. For centuries, 75% of coffee drinkers have settled for mediocrity, masking the taste with sugar, syrups, and overpriced add-ons. But what if coffee didn't just promise to be amazing? What if it actually was? Introducing Alive Coffee, the first coffee that tastes as good as it makes you feel. Meet the coffee that thinks beyond the cup. Bold, smooth, alive. Made from expertly roasted top-quality beans, Alive Coffee is smooth, rich, and shockingly delicious. Stop drinking May, start drinking Alive. The coffee that delivers, just like the 90% who won't start their day without it.
All right, everyone. So we've had some technical issues and we have not been able to reconnect back with LizBeth, but you heard the gist of her story on what she experienced growing up and finding herself, even as an adult. She had a hard time still trying to find herself, even though she went through all of these different types of therapy, life experiences, but she truly, truly had a rude awakening when she went through the divorce, and which caused her now to really get in the front row of her seat of life, to look at herself in the mirror and see all of those areas that could be adjusted, or things that could, changes that could come about. What was great about it was the fact that she was now able to have shared custody with the children, with the father for the children, and now they are at a better place. For many, it never gets to a better place. And we're thankful that she was able to experience that and still be able to be a mom to her children and share the custody. In life, some things happen where we don't expect certain changes to happen. We don't know what's around the corner. But at the end of the day, your attitude at the end of the day says it all. How you look at life also changes that factor as well. So on this platform of Emerge and Empower, we encourage individuals to continue emerging forward, healing, because healing is every day. You heard it with LizBeth. She's still on the journey of healing, still self-discovering, but at the same time have enough to be able to help those who are further along, way behind in those places where she once was, to help them come forward and pull them out of whatever situation, mindset, blockage, barriers that they might have in life, in order to get them on the front row seat of their lives. Oh, there we go.
There we are.
There we go. Great. What we would say to them, for those who are not sure or think that they're fine but aren't, what would you say to an individual?
So I would say spend some time looking inside and seeing who you are, and just notice that you are made up of lots of different parts, and maybe some parts have made decisions that you've regretted, that other parts have regretted. But that doesn't mean that there's anyone who's bad inside you. It just means that you've had different motivations, different ways of perceiving the world that have influenced you. And if you can take some time to send some compassion to your parts and just build a relationship with them, then I think that will just bring some more love and healing within.
All right. And what would you say to a parent that experienced what you did, to understand the other side of it?
I would say just try to dialogue. I think that custody cases, the whole legal system is so litigious and polarized. And I think that, if we can bring it back to shared values, what both parties want, and really figure out, what's going on there and how to make that happen. And take responsibility for your stuff. Really hope the other person takes responsibility for theirs, so that doesn't become what it's all about, which I think too often it does. Yeah.
Because in the end, the children are caught in the middle of it all.
Right.
And so once your children now have been able to come and be with you, what have you guys actually talked about what that experience was like for them?
We've talked about it some, yeah, but they've also grown up, moved on. Children are much more resilient than we adults are sometimes.
Right.
And they're able to make sense of it in their own way, and just come back to this place of playfulness and joy. So yeah, I think they're good. So
that is great. And so on this healing and the therapy journey that you help and assist others in, why would someone want to come to you for assistance?
Well, I would say that they come because they've heard about a process that can really help them. And I think that there's lots of things that are sold to them, to people, and people have hope and then it's dashed because things don't work. And I think that's a really hard place to be in, where you have trauma and you're running out of hope that you can actually do anything about it. So what I want to do is give people hope that there is something that you can do, and you can go inside and heal this stuff. And I've had clients say that they're living now as though they had a happy childhood, because it really has rewired something in the past. So, yeah.
So that's great. So you heard it here. So if you would like to get in touch with LizBeth, the links are in the description, so you'll be able to reach out to her. Are there any websites?
Sure. Yeah, you can reach me at multiplemind.com. So.
I just went again.
I know. Yeah. So.
All right. So all the description will be in the bios. I have a lot of cutting and editing that I have to do, but all the description will be in the bio, so you can reach out to LizBeth. If you find her relatable, because we have different individuals that are on here, there's always that one person that stands out for you. And if LizBeth is that person, then you can continue to connect here with her and just let her know that you saw her on Emerge and Empower, so that way she can know exactly what platform it was on as well. And so we look forward to healing. This healing journey is continuous. It's not overnight. So give yourself some grace. All right. You have to put time in it. Don't expect it on the individual that you're going to, because you have to do the work. The work starts with you. All right. There's work that you need to do. They can only guide you, but you need to follow through. All right. So we're closing off now. And you've heard what LizBeth had to say on today. So stay tuned, connect. It's not going to happen by just watching. You need to connect. You need to click the link. You need to talk to her so you can know if she can help you. Okay. Don't just watch her here, your hand up. No, don't do that. Connect, click, follow up. That's how it works. All right. Follow up. So thank you so much, LizBeth, for being here on today for Emerge and Empower. And everyone, it's been nice having you here. Until next time, everyone. Bye-bye.